This video examines the struggle for racial equality in America, highlighting the challenges of violence, oppression, and resilience faced along the way. It focuses on the significant role of the Ku Klux Klan, KKK, a symbol of racial hatred that emerged after the Civil War and opposed African American progress toward freedom from systemic oppression. The narrative covers the Klan's harmful legacy, the courageous resistance by African Americans, legislative efforts to counteract racially motivated violence, and the lasting impact of these historical developments on contemporary society. Greetings and welcome. I'm Carolyn A. from GettingToTheRoots.com, ready to empower you with tips, resources, and tutorials to craft a legacy that's uniquely yours. Let's discover the unique role your family has played in history. Join us on this incredible journey. Together, let's uncover the stories that have shaped us, celebrate the diversity of our heritage, and ensure that the legacies of our ancestors are remembered and cherished forever. Let's dive in. How has the Ku Klux Klan negatively affected African American civil progress? Following the cessation of the American Civil War in 1865, a newfound spirit of emancipation flickered in the lives of African Americans, promising a future characterized by equality, liberty, and the cherished pursuit of the American dream. However, the ominous rise of the Klan soon obscured this glimmer of hope. Born out of the rubbles of post-war animosity, the Klan fashioned itself into an instrument of racial oppression, utterly diminishing the hard-earned civil rights advances for African Americans. The inception of the Klan in 1865 assembled a congregation of dispirited Southern whites. Central to their ideology was the intent to perpetuate a reign of racial superiority, often under the guise of defending American values. Their extreme efforts to frighten and silence African Americans included brutal violence and murder. These tactics were used to stop Black people from exercising their right to vote and enjoying their newly gained freedoms. If you find value in this video, please show your support by liking it, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. This aids in improving our visibility through YouTube's algorithm. Now, let's get back to our video. The vigorous propagation of the Klan, particularly during the Reconstruction era 1865 to 1877, had a detrimental effect on the integration efforts championed by the U.S. government and abolitionists. To gain a deeper insight into the Reconstruction era, watch Black Life Under Reconstruction Restrictions for comprehensive coverage. Check out the link in the show notes for further information. While the ratification of the 14th and 15th Amendments seemed like a leap forward for equal rights, these laws were rendered insignificant in the face of rampant Klan activity. The Klan's reign of terror consistently impeded African American participation in politics, employment, and education. The support the Klan received from like-minded local law enforcement and powerful public figures throughout the South increased its already enormous influence. This unsanctioned alliance not only condoned but also stimulated racial violence and discrimination. The Klan succeeded in suffusing an atmosphere of omnipresent terror for African Americans, consequently forcing them into insurmountable socio-political subjugation. The Klan's systematic erosion of African American civil rights persisted well into the 20th century, with waves of resurgence accompanying each significant stride toward racial equality. The civil rights movement of the 1960s, in particular, witnessed a violent backlash from Klan factions. How did African Americans resist and mobilize against the Klan's oppression? Despite the pervasive culture of fear, the African American response to the Klan's reign of terror in the post-Civil War United States was a manifestation of resilience, resistance, and fortitude. In this climate of constant threat, African Americans, despite their insurmountable challenges, pursued avenues that subtly and overtly challenged the Klan's reign. Family and faith became pillars of solace and strength, creating a sense of community that collectively resisted the ideologies propagated by the Klan. The establishment of African American churches during this period, for instance, served dual purposes. They were not only a gathering place for solace and worship, but also hotbeds of political activity, fostering discussions on racial equality and social justice. Organized movements and resistance were vital to the African American response, with the formation of protective groups and alliances being a noteworthy aspect. The development of mutual aid societies offered financial assistance, protection, and a sense of community for African Americans. So-called black militias also emerged during this period, offering physical protection and symbolizing open defiance against the Klan's terror. Further, the response from African Americans was not limited to grassroots activism. There were consistent and stringent endeavors to engage in the political process, despite the threat of violence. African Americans established a political voice during this era, using whatever means were available to them. A striking example of this political resistance is the election of 16 African American members to the United States Congress during the Reconstruction era alone, a remarkable achievement considering the adversities faced. Additionally, African American newspapers played a pivotal role in countering the Klan's narratives. These publications highlighted the injustices and violence perpetrated by the Klan, offering an alternative narrative to the prejudiced rhetoric pervasive in mainstream media. They raised awareness of the African American struggle for civil rights, galvanizing support for their cause at a national and international level. Education has also emerged as a powerful form of resistance. African Americans recognized that literacy and education were keys to personal and collective empowerment. Consequently, they fought steadfastly for the right to education, resulting in the establishment of several historically black colleges and universities during the post-Civil War era. How have legislation and courts influenced the fight against the Ku Klux Klan? In the face of such wide-scale terror and suppression, legal mechanisms eventually began to take shape in efforts to counterbalance the heinous acts perpetrated by the Klan. The initial effort was the ratification of the 14th Amendment in 1868, granting African Americans citizenship rights and equal protection under the law. The 15th Amendment, passed in 1870 to defend African American men's right to vote, further strengthened this. Nevertheless, these amendments were often subverted or wholly ignored, primarily in southern states where the Klan bore the most influence. The federal government instituted a series of laws known colloquially as the Enforcement Acts, designed to protect African Americans' constitutional rights. These acts, passed between 1870 and 1871, established that federal law superseded state laws and provided the groundwork for prosecuting Klan members for their transgressions. The most notable enforcement act, colloquially known as the Ku Klux Klan Act, 1871, gave the president authority to use federal troops to uphold the law and suspend habeas corpus if necessary. This particular legislation marked quite a drastic move, indicative of the urgency and severity of the Klan's horrendous actions. Under President Ulysses S. Grant, this act was put into use most notably during the South Carolina upheaval in 1871, where martial law was established. This government action saw a significant but temporary reduction in Klan violence and intimidation tactics during this period. Fast forward to the tumultuous era of the civil rights movement in the 1960s, when additional legal instruments were invoked to temper Klan activities. The landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964, forbidding racial segregation in public places, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, assuring African Americans the right to vote, were pivotal in crippling the Klan's main objectives. Moreover, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, heightened its efforts to infiltrate and disrupt the Klan. This approach bore fruit with the downfall of several Klan leaders and the disintegration of many Klan chapters. However, assessing the overall effectiveness of these legal endeavors proves complex. While determined legal interventions reduced Klan violence, they were not entirely successful in eradicating the deeply ingrained racial animosity that the Klan had fostered. The sporadic resurgence of the Klan and the persistence of racially charged hostility in various forms and structures serve as evidence for this caveat. Is the Ku Klux Klan still a persistent stain on American society? Yes, the Ku Klux Klan remains a dark stain, initially dissolving in the 1870s and resurging during the Civil Rights Movement. The Klan has had to adapt, moving underground and utilizing digital platforms to spread its ideologies. Today, they exist as fragmented groups that continue to pose a threat through the promotion of hate and division, underscoring the importance of vigilance, education, and proactive engagement to combat the Klan's ideologies. What can we learn from the impact of the Ku Klux Klan on African American rights? This journey through the history of the Klan's impact on African American rights reminds us of the resilience faced by oppression, the power of legislative action, and the importance of continued vigilance. As we strive for a society where equality is not just an ideal but a reality, it's crucial to remember and act upon these lessons. Are today's symbols of hate hidden behind professional facades? While the Ku Klux Klan historically donned white robes to mask their identities and perpetrate acts of terror, one must ponder, in today's society, could the bearers of similar ideologies be hiding in plain sight, not behind masks, but behind titles and positions of authority? As we witness ongoing racial injustices, disparities in health outcomes, and systemic barriers facing African American communities, it's imperative to question whether the ideologies that fueled the Klan's actions could be entrenched within our current institutions. Could police officers, judges, political leaders, or even doctors, consciously or unconsciously, harbor biases that perpetuate the cycle of oppression and inequality? The evidence of racial disparities in criminal justice, healthcare, and political representation suggests that the fight against such ideologies is far from over. It challenges us to scrutinize the structures of power and privilege that govern our society and hold accountable those who perpetuate discrimination and inequality through action or inaction. This critical reflection underscores the need for ongoing vigilance, education, and systemic reform to dismantle the remnants of hate and ensure that every individual, regardless of race, has equal access to justice, healthcare, and opportunities for prosperity. It invites us to engage in meaningful dialogue and take actionable steps toward building a more inclusive and equitable society. That's a wrap on our exploration of the impact of the Ku Klux Klan on African American rights. Together, let's keep learning, growing, and striving for a world where equality isn't just an ideal, but a reality for all. Thank you for joining us on this important journey. See you in the next video. Peace and love.